the world leader in MMA. Experience it on Fox Sports 2.
And we welcome you to San Jose, California. The heart of Silicon Valley this weekend plays host to a welterweight matchup for which the judges likely will not be needed. And there is one of the men on the marquee. He is ruthless Robbie Lawler, now just one win away from another welterweight title shot and a rematch with belt holder Johnny Hendricks. But in his way stands that man, the immortal Matt Brown. Ohio's toughest son is in search of an 8th consecutive win and a chance to punch his ticket to UFC gold. Meantime, in tomorrow's co-main event, a pair of light heavyweights look to stake their claims as title contenders as Anthony Rumble Johnson takes on the returning Antonio Rogerio Nogueira. The UFC weigh-in show starts right now. And there is a live shot of the scale for today's weigh-in live from San Jose. The fighters will be stepping up there momentarily, and it all is coming your way right here on Fox Sports 2. And with that, what's going on? We welcome you to our home base here in San Jose. John Anik, Mike Side, the semi-retired middleweight Brian Stan, and the man of the hour, the second-ranked light heavyweight contender Daniel Cormier, of course, DC. Some major news coming down your way on Wednesday this week. Alexander Gustafsson injures his knee. He's out of the fight with the champion John Jones. That means opportunity knocks, man. Congratulations.
Thank you so much. It's like finally, I've worked so hard, man. 15 fights, Strikeforce Grand Prix. I haven't lost a round in MMA, and now I get to compete against the best fighter in the world, John Jones. It is a dream come true. I've been wanting this for a very long time. I believe that styles make fights, and my style matches up with John Jones very well. I believe that I have the skill, the ability, and the mindset to go out there and beat the #1 fighter pound for pound in the world.
And a nice luxury for the UFC to have you standing by here. I don't think really anything is lost, and obviously we wish you the best of luck. We'll be watching on September the 27th. All right, well, tomorrow's main event features a pair of outstanding sluggers. Let's start with Robbie Lawler. Really has made a career out of being a knockout artist. The knockouts continue to pile up here in his second stint in the UFC.
Well, you know, this is a guy in his first stint in the UFC was a knockout artist because he was such a powerful and explosive athlete. Now we're seeing him really come into his own as a mixed martial artist. Head kicks, flying knees, punches, but Matt Brown is just as violent. These guys can wrestle, they can do jiu-jitsu, they can do it all, but everything they do it while trying to knock you unconscious. I dare you to pick two other guys in the roster who could guarantee you more violence in a matchup than Robbie Lawler and Matt Brown.
Yeah, Robbie Lawler, the prohibitive favorite here, but best of luck betting against Matt Brown. That certainly hasn't worked out for anyone the last 7 times he has stepped foot inside the octagon. All right, co-main event, Anthony Johnson, all eyes on him. He exploded back on the scene, handling top 205er Phil Davis. Now he takes on a mixed martial arts legend of sorts in Rogerio Nogueira.
Yes, when Anthony Johnson came back to the UFC, we did not expect to see him look as good as he did against Phil Davis. He did, and it was great to see. But guys, remember, Antonio Nogueira is the guy that beat Rashad Evans. The measuring stick for how good Anthony Johnson was doing in camp was how close he was to Rashad Evans. You cannot count out Little Nog, no matter how good Anthony Johnson has looked in his second stint in the UFC.
Right, and of course Nogueira was dealing with a similarly long layoff when he did fight Rashad Evans back in 2013. We'll see if he can handle it against the favorite Anthony Johnson. Well, San Jose, the site for a massive card tomorrow night, but that is nothing unusual for the fans here, and for more on that angle, we send it down to the 4th member of our broadcast team. He is Ariel Helwani.
You know, guys, it seems rather fitting that one of the most anticipated fights of the year is taking place in this very arena. Because if you ask me, no arena outside of Las Vegas has seen bigger or better MMA fights in the last 10 years. I mean, the list is pretty darn impressive, but these, in my opinion, are the top 3 best fights to take place in this very arena. Number 3, it's got to be Frank Shamrock versus Cung Le back in March of 2008. What a fight that was, ultimately won by Cung Le. He became on that night the Strikeforce middleweight champion. Number 2, arguably the biggest upset in MMA history, June of 2010, Fabricio Verdum submitting Fyodor Emelianenko. It's a fight that is still considered till this day one of the biggest upsets of all time. And then November of 2011, not only maybe the greatest UFC fight of all time, maybe the greatest MMA fight of all time, Dan Henderson defeating Shogun Rua via decision at UFC 139. Expectations very high every time the UFC comes here. A lot to live up to. Now it's time for Robbie Lawler and Matt Brown to live up to it all.
All right, pretty good list there. Coming up next here on Fox Sports 2, Lawler, Brown, Johnson, Little Nog, and the rest of the pack will hit the scale for the inconvenient truth as the UFC Fight Night weigh-in show continues live. All right, we are back here in San Jose, California. John Anik, Brian Stan, Daniel Cormier now joining us, I guess by popular demand. Ariel Helwani, good to have you here, man.
Guys, this is my favorite arena to watch MMA. I've seen some of the greatest fights of all time here. I cannot wait to be back in San Jose. I'm expecting something great as well. You even won
Thanks
here.
for bringing the ratings, Ariel.
Hey, well,
all right, now it is time to get things started. We go down to the stage. Take it away, Joe Rogan.
Okay, hey guys, can somebody get
to the weigh-ins? Vanessa Hansen, ladies and gentlemen. Dana White, without him, none of this would be possible. Joe Silva, best matchmaker on the planet Earth. And Bert Watson, babysitter to the stars. We have a fantastic lineup for you, ladies and gentlemen. And we will kick things off in the featherweight division. Steven Seiler versus Noah Mohat.
Hey guys, you want to talk about pressure? How's this for pressure? As Neo has been going through his training camp, he has known that on Sunday morning, he will board a plane back to Israel, rejoin the military, and fight for his country. In reality, Saturday night is the easy part for Neo.
Without a doubt, he's obviously got more serious things on his mind. The question is, can he focus? You know, I've had times similar where the fight was so fun that I wasn't as focused as I needed to be for the fight. You know, Daniel, I called Lahat's last fight. Physically, he looks much more impressive today than he did last time. Steven Seiler, 13 wins by submission, 13 finishes in the first round. He's an extremely fast starter. Believes his last fight was a fluke against Hani Jason, a fight John, you and I called, where he got hit with a flying knee, but immediately complained because the referee stepped in, stopped the fight a little too early. So he's got a huge chip on his shoulder and something to prove tomorrow night.
27 years old. This will be his 36th professional fight, his 9th appearance inside the octagon.
Next we move to the women's strawweight division. Juliana Lima versus Johanna Jędrzejczyk.
Tomorrow, UFC Fight Night returns to Fox with a full card of bouts, including a welterweight matchup between first-ranked Robbie Lawler and fifth-ranked Matt Brown. It all begins with the prelims at 6 p.m. Eastern. It is only on Fox.
Well, guys, this is just the second strawweight fight in UFC history, and Juliana is an interesting character. She has a degree in tourismology. Do you know what that is? Tourismology.
Nope.
She helps you out if you want to book a trip or something. Tourism, you know, the industry that is tourism. She dropped it all after 6 years, became a pro MMA fighter, and in fact, her coach had to stay back in Brazil because his mom suffered a leg injury. So Alexis Davis and her husband took her under their wing and trained with her all week long here in San Jose. She had no one to train with, and they helped her out. Very nice of them. Getting nervous. This is not usually a good sign.
And she certainly looks huge for this weight class.
She's 1 pound over.
Oh yeah. What is it?
That's quite the stare down face.
That's a good stare down, huh?
I'm scared right now, DC.
She's got a little work to do.
Next we move to the men's welterweight division. ANDREAS STAHL versus GILBERT.
Tomorrow, soccer's best teams and greatest players continue their American tour in the 2014 Guinness International Champions Cup as Manchester United takes on Italian powerhouse AS Roma on Fox, followed by Real Madrid squaring off against Inter Milan on Fox Sports 2. Coverage begins tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern on Fox and continues at 6 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 2. You can catch the entire tournament streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
And his opponent, ANDREAS STAHL.
9-0 as a pro, 5-0 as an amateur. His nickname is Real Steel because Stahl, Daniel, and I'm sure you know this, means what in Swedish? Steel. Good job, Daniel.
I was just about to tell you.
Now, you know, this is very interesting. He won a reality show in Sweden of the best 170-pound fighters. He was 1-0 at the time. He was a late replacement and won the whole thing. A lot of people are very high on this man. Also trains with Alexander Gustafsson in Sweden. I'm sure you know a thing or two about him, Daniel.
Yeah, my favorite guy in the world, Alexander.
Gilbert Burns and ANDREAS STAHL, ladies and gentlemen. Next we move to the lightweight division. Untitled versus Thiago Trainer.
This man's a former soccer player, guys, was a goalkeeper back in the day. and a local show was looking for just a big fighter who kind of fit his size. They asked him if he wanted to fight. He had never thrown a punch before, never trained, never been in a fight. Took the fight, liked it, and now here he is fighting in the UFC. He dropped the soccer gig and decided to chase an MMA career. Member of Team Nogueira, of course, and he actually left his family elsewhere in Brazil to move to Rio de Janeiro to train with the Nogueira team. Of course, Antonio Rogerio Nogueira also fighting on this card. Also interesting to note, he used to work as a security guard, left that job recently to become a pro MMA fighter, and now the security company sponsors him. Ha.
Certainly doesn't look like a soccer player anymore.
155 for Thiago.
He's got a little Ronaldo in him.
And his opponent,
Tonight, Get in the Ring as Fox Fight Night returns with a full card of bouts, including a showdown between undefeated junior welterweight Frankie Gomez and Vernon Paris. Coverage begins at 11 p.m. Eastern on Fox Sports 1. Of course, it is streaming live on Fox Sports Go. And we welcome you back to the set. So 4 fights down, 8 to go. The next 4 prelims coming your way on Fox tomorrow. Of course, leading up to the main card. We begin with Mike De La Torre taking on Brian Ortega at featherweight. Ortega will be first to the scale.
When you talk to the UFC matchmakers and you ask them what's the hardest weight class to get into the UFC, they'll tell you featherweight is the hardest weight class to get in. There's so many talented guys and it is so crowded, but that just tells you how good this young man is. He's a former RFA champion where he actually defeated UFC fighter Eric Koch's older brother. He started kickboxing at age 5, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu at 13, now a black belt, but it goes to show RFA continues to pump UFC fighters through their breeding grounds how good Brian Ortega could be.
Kind of looks like Nick Diaz.
His opponent, Mike De La Torre.
Tuesday, Derek Jeter and the Yankees head to Texas to battle the Rangers at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, and the only place you can see it is Fox Sports 1. Then next Saturday, it is baseball's premier rivalry as the Yankees will be in Boston to take on the Red Sox. Special coverage begins at 3 p.m. Eastern, only on Fox Sports 1 and streaming live on Fox Sports Go.
One more thing about Ortega, guys. He's actually a teacher over at the Gracie Academy in Torrance. Trains with the likes of Hiron and Henner Gracie, so look out for his ground skills. He was rocking the t-shirt there. You saw him as he was about to weigh in. Uh-oh, the towel.
That's never good, getting the towel before you even step onto the scale.
I think that's why he was wearing that big necklace, maybe to cut extra weight while he was sitting there.
Well, of course, his last UFC appearance came up a division against Mark Bocek at 155 pounds. A fight a lot of people thought he won, by the way.
Well done. And once again, Ariel loses a bet to me. I said he was on weight. Ariel said he wasn't. Once again, Ariel, pay me up. Pay up, buddy.
What's that tab up to now, DC?
I mean, he owes me quite a bit, but he hasn't. He's a wealthy man.
True.
First fight on Fox, ladies and gentlemen, Mike De La Torre and Brian Ortega. Next, we move to the welterweight division. Hernani Perpetua versus Tim the Dirty Bird Means.
You know, Tim Means has got a great story, guys. He actually started out his career 3-2 in his first 5 fights, and he took a 4-year layoff, did a stint in prison, and when he was leaving prison after going through some tumultuous times, a friend of his said, look, if you forget what this place is like, then you're guaranteed to come back. Tim Means says, I've never forgotten. I went back to mixed martial arts. He's 17-4-1 since returning after a 4-year layoff.
Mr. Means. And his opponent,
Perpetua lost his UFC debut to Jordan Meehan back in April. That snapped a 9-fight unbeaten streak for him. He's a Nobunyao member, so you know he's good, and there was a lot of buzz about him early in his career. Former Shudo 170-pound champion, actually tried out for Tough 1 and 2 in Brazil, didn't make it. Now here he is in the UFC. Said he was nervous in his debut, only felt comfortable in the 3rd, so let's see how he looks tomorrow.
Next we move to the light heavyweight division. Kyle Kingsbury versus Patrick Cummins.
So Daniel, help me out here a little bit. How hard is it to be a walk-on at University of Penn State for their wrestling team, and then end up being an NCAA runner-up in the national tournament, and then go on to make the national team?
Unbelievably hard. The things that Patrick Cummins did as a wrestler are truly, truly impressive. He should be very proud of what he did on the wrestle mat.
I've talked to a ton of guys who train with him, and granted, you made him look bad, which you've done to a lot of people. They continually tell me this guy is an animal in the gym and will one day be a contender in this weight division.
Welcome back, Kingsboo. Kingsboo hasn't fought in 2 years. In that time, he's traveled the world running marathon races. He's become a certified fireman. He got engaged to his beautiful girlfriend, Natasha Wicks. Talk about making the most of your time away from the cage. He returns tomorrow night, looking to push the AKA record to 2-0 against America's favorite coffee boy.
I didn't know Joe Rogan was sponsoring fighters now. You got the Joe Rogan Experience t-shirt on. That's when you know you've made it.
See that fanny pack?
He tripled up.
Look at that, look at that, look at that.
Oh my.
He's always got a great fanny pack.
The gentleman's haircut as well. I have beard envy right now, guys.
Kingsboo was 203 pounds yesterday.
Yeah.
His haircut shows you a more mature Kyle Kingsbury.
He also said, if I haven't improved enough in the past 3 years to get past this guy whose intention is to lay on me, then maybe it's time to hang up the gloves. So we'll see if this is the swan song for Kingsboo.
I'm taking Kingsboo.
Shocker.
Pat Cummins and Kyle Kingsbury, ladies and gentlemen. Next fight takes place in the lightweight division. Darren Cruikshank versus Jorge Masvidal.
Jorge Masvidal is also a poker player, and he says while he's not that great at math and counting cards, he's very good at reading people, and he's always looking for the sucker. He said one of his tactics he'll do to read if somebody's bluffing is he will stare at them like it's a stare down for a fight, and then he waits to see their response. So imagine if you're at a poker table with this guy and he's just sitting there staring at you. Not only an experienced veteran in the octagon, but also an experienced veteran of televised street fights.
And his opponent,
Darren Cruikshank was a member of Team Faber on The Ultimate Fighter Live, the only live season of the show, which was the hardest season to ever film, as Dominic Cruz told me. He's very well-rounded. He'd won 2 fights in a row, including a very, very impressive TKO knockout of Eric Koch in his last fight. Very first round. He's looked very, very good. He's going to need that to beat George Masvidal.
155.5.
Interesting, Masvidal said he hasn't watched any of this guy's fights, so he's got some really unorthodox kicks that Masvidal's not prepared for.
Masvidal's seen everything.
And Darren Cruikshank getting the red corner treatment too against the veteran Jorge Masvidal. We are going down the final stretch of the weigh-in now. 4 fights to go, starting with a lightweight tilt to kick off the main card. Josh Thompson and Bobby Green, the late replacement Green, will tip the scale first.
Well, guys, what a story Bobby Green has. A foster kid from the age of 5, lived in 50 different houses until he was in his early 20s, 90 days in jail, including solitary confinement for 10 days, expelled from the Army, broke his ankle back in April, forcing him out of UFC 172, but that all pales in comparison to what he experienced back in May of this past year. Sadly, his brother Mitchell Davis Jr. was shot and killed. 2 of his uncles and cousins were also shot. He has a 2-month-old. The man has been through a lot, and he's taking this fight on just 2 weeks' notice, dedicating this fight, of course, to his late brother. And if he wins a bonus tomorrow, he says he will donate it to his brother's kids.
Unbelievable. This man's entire life has been chaos. A lot of people are questioning him stepping up on short notice. This guy is used to dealing with this kind of environment.
But even to see him having this type of fun after going through everything he's been through recently shows why we all like Bobby Green. Guys, Josh Thompson, I was told the day he walked in the gym in 1998, he immediately started talking trash. That's why they call him the punk. But guys, nobody in the gym works harder. Nobody's more committed. And Josh Thompson is easily the most well-rounded, most technical fighter we have at AK. That says something when you have a guy like Cain Velasquez, myself, Luke Rockhold, and everybody else in that gym. Hands down the most technically gifted fighter we have at AK. Wow.
Good to see him back, because after his last loss in January, he hinted at retirement. But he has thought twice about that, and it's good to see him back. Whoa.
Guys, a month ago, Bobby Green asked if he could come and train at AK. I said, long as you don't fight any of our guys. And look at us today. Took the fight on short notice against Josh Thompson.
Takes place in the featherweight division. Clay, the Carpenter Guida versus Dennis, the Menace Bermudez.
This is a fascinating fight for many reasons. First, let's talk about what Bermudez said about Guida this past week. He said, we were shooting for someone a little more, I don't know, someone more in their prime, if you will. I think Clay Guida's best days are behind him. I think Clay Guida in his prime, which I was already past, would beat the Clay Guida of today. That's what he said about Clay. But why I think this is interesting is this man has won 6 in a row. That's the 2nd longest winning streak in this division, yet he's only ranked 12. You got a guy like Conor McGregor who talks a whole lot. He's ranked 10. Bermudez needs respect, and he needs to make a big point here tomorrow.
146 for Mr. Bermudez. And his opponent, Clay, the Carpenter Guida.
So Guida's past his prime. People forget the roster of people that Clay Guida has defeated. Tetsuya Kawajiri in his latest fight, Josh Thompson, Nate Diaz, Rafael Dos Anjos, and the champion Anthony Pettis. These are all guys Clay Guida has beaten before. He's been the underdog so many times in his career. You can be better than this man technically everywhere. but you've got to be better than him at his pace. And the pace that Clay Guida fights at breaks fighters down.
Bring your lunch pail when you're fighting Clay Guida, because he is going to be around all day long.
Former Strikeforce lightweight champion won that title in this very building.
Love watching this guy compete, man. He's all over people. That hair's flying everywhere. Clay Guida's a stud.
He lives his life that way, man. Everything. He's bouncing around everywhere, shadow boxes in every restaurant. Look at him.
I always like to quote Roy Jones Jr., smash single, y'all must have forgot on this set. And it applies to Little Nog. This is a guy who's 2-0 in his last 2 fights, yet he's only fought twice since December of 2011. Since then, of course, he beat Rashad Evans in his last fight almost around 18 months ago. He married a beautiful woman, and guys, yesterday I said to him, do you think you're kind of punching above your weight class? I mean, she's kind of out of your league. He looked at me, and this was kind of dangerous. He said, but I'm good looking too, right? And I was like, yes, Little Nog, you are good looking too. You deserve it.
Spoken from a man who definitely married up, by the way.
Absolutely.
Little Nog's a funny guy, isn't he? He's got jokes.
It's good to see him back. In all seriousness, a lot of people counting him out, but it's good to see him back, one of the legends of this sport.
He looks fantastic physically for a 2-year layoff.
You can use a lot of words to describe Rumble Johnson. Powerful, explosive, finisher. All of them fit. Now we have to call him smart, because Anthony has finally realized that sucking himself down to these lower weight divisions is not good for him. He's looked nothing short of amazing since starting to fight in the 205-pound division. There's one more word out there for him if he performs as he did against Phil Davis. We're going to start calling Anthony Johnson a contender in the light heavyweight division.
I couldn't agree more with you, DC. I think that this guy, if he wins tomorrow night, I think he fights for the title in 2015.
Against DC?
Against DC.
That's what I'm talking about.
Guys, it has been a pleasure, but I'm going to talk to Rumble and some of the other guys backstage. So I'll see you later. Don't miss me too much, DC.
Ariel, please
Take
don't
care,
go.
good looking.
Yo, later.
Hey, and a correction as well. Little Nogueira fought Rashad Evans a year ago, 1-year layoff.
ROGERIO, Nogueira, and Anthony Johnson. Now let's take a closer look at the 2 men involved in the main event of the evening.
It's not always just about who's the strongest and the fastest. It's about who can push themselves the furthest. So you have to risk going too far to see how far you can actually go. That's one of the awesome things about the sport is you see the deepest inner workings of yourself. It all comes out at some point. Because if you fight long enough, everybody's going to find out who you are.
That's a ferocious individual. Oh, that's it. It is all over. You talk about Matt Brown's aggression.
Oh my God! Matt Brown has done it again! One of the greatest fights in UFC history.
Wow. Yeah, he is an animal.
Matt Brown's a really good fighter. He's mentally strong. He puts a lot of pressure on fighters. He looks to break fighters, and he looks to wear them down and beat them up. So I need to go out there and beat him up start to finish. Just fighting the way I always fight.
Oh! He rocked it. I said, wow! Ruthless Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler versus Matt Brown is a fight where two of the most vicious, aggressive, and dominating welterweights in the world today are going to go head-to-head. The winner is going to be the #1 contender and will next face Johnny Hendricks for the UFC welterweight title. This fight is what championship mixed martial arts is all about. The best of the best fighting each other for a shot at the world title. It doesn't get any better than this.
I bring it all at all times. I want to knock people out. I want to stop people. I want to get in their face, so I don't need to do all the trash talking. I try to do it with my fists, my knees, and my feet.
Oh, Mo! What a left hand!
We both, I think, have essentially the same goal in a fight. You know, we're trying to knock the other guy out. We're trying to make the other guy break. We're not looking to point fight. You know, we're looking to put a hurting on the opponent.
I just need to go in there against Brown and show the world what I'm capable of, and I don't need to see what he can do. He's going to see what I do.
I don't care what he thinks. I don't think I can be beat by anybody in the world.
He's out! Oh, my! I can't wait for this fight, ladies and gentlemen! Introducing first, Matt the Immortal Brown!
And talking to people that are close to Matt Brown, he's dealt with a back injury for about the last 4 fights that he's had. This is the first fight in a long time that his back has given him no problems whatsoever. He's 100% healthy. He's had 32 fights, 13 knockout victories, 6 submission victories. Only 12% of his fights have ever gone the distance.
$172 and a half.
172 and a half.
So surprising result there. Matt Brown will have 1 hour to cut the final pound and a half. And if he is unable to do so, he will forfeit 20% of his fight purse.
Guys, I love Robbie Lawler. This guy has completely reinvented himself as he came back to the UFC. He's knocking people out. He fought Johnny Hendricks as close as he can get. Guys, Robbie told me at UFC 173, he had spent a total of 2 weeks with his family for the whole first part of the year. First thing, he has a great wife, because mine would never go for that. And secondly, talk about commitment. Robbie has now moved his entire family down to Florida so he can be fully committed to becoming the champion. Being close just was not enough for Robbie Lawler, and you're seeing it in his performances in the octagon.
From Mr. Lawler.
And guys, we've talked about Cowboy Cerrone fighting a lot over the course of the year. Robbie Lawler has fought for the title and 2 more times already through the first half of 2014.
Matt Brown versus Robbie Lawler, ladies and gentlemen, for the #1 contender position. We'll see you all tomorrow.
All right, so the weigh-in is now done. Interesting result there, though, in the main event. Matt Brown missing weight by 1.5 pounds. You know, a lot of people, I think, seeing that arrival shot, he looked like he was wearing it a little bit, so certainly an interesting...